Welcome to Uncensored Conservatism, episode number 69, the important U.S. Senate races. And let's see here. Let's start up in Maine and go east-west, where independent Angus King, who's really a Democrat, and not to be confused with Angus Young of AC/DC, faces a Democrat named David Costello there in the middle, and a Republican Demi Kuzunis. King's popular in the Pine State, and Kuzunis is the former head of the GOP in Maine, and she did such a great job up there that she got fired. Anyway, King's going to win this one. In Vermont, that wild and wacky, crazy Bernie Sanders, technically an independent like King up there in Maine, is running against Republican Gerald Malloy, shown on the right. Okay, Vermont's a weird state, and Sanders will win in a landslide, but you have to give Malloy some credit here for even trying. The Democrats didn't even have a need to throw up a candidate when you have Bernie Sanders in your corner. In Massachusetts, incumbent Democrat Elizabeth Warren, shown here on the left on the reservation, will oppose Republican John Deaton. Let's be for real here, because the fake engine is going to win. However, I think it'd be cool for Deaton and John Fetterman to take a picture together just for some shits and giggles. Staying in New England, in Connecticut, Democratic incumbent Chris Murphy, who is very anti-Trump, will face off against the very Trumpy Matthew Corey. It's Connecticut, folks. Put this one in the Murphy column. Last and certainly least, in New England, Sheldon Whitehouse, the incredibly stupid and still dickhead Democratic incumbent from Rhode Island, will face off against Republican Patricia Morgan, thus ensuring that Whitehouse will remain a dickhead for the next 6 years. In New York, Democrat Kirsten Gillibrand will face Mike Sapricone. The Republicans didn't even have a primary, so they just picked some random dude off the street to run and lose. All right, in neighboring New Jersey, the seat was vacated when Robert Menendez, the Democratic incumbent, excuse my finger there, the Democratic incumbent was found guilty of literally lining his pockets with gold bars. So squirrel-faced Governor Murphy appointed some dude named Helmy. In the election tomorrow, Andy Kim, on the left there, will face, in case you didn't know, will face off against Republican Curtis Bashaw. So New Jersey will get either their first Asian senator or their first gay senator. So, take your pick there. My money's on the Asian. All right, this is a pretty good one here in Pennsylvania, where Bob Casey, the Democrat, will face Dave McCormick for the Republicans. You may remember that McCormick lost the 2022 GOP primary to somebody named Dr. Oz, thus allowing John Fetterman to win in Pennsylvania. You got to keep an eye on this one tomorrow night. Although I think Casey will prevail, the momentum seems to be with McCormick in the polls. This might be as close as the presidential race in Pennsylvania, so stay tuned. In Delaware, incumbent Democrat Tom Carper is vacating the seat. Lisa Rochester Blunt, the Democrat on the left there, will be the next senator from Delaware because, well, it's Delaware. She faces this poor soul, Eric Hansen, a pro-choice, climate change alarmist Republican. Sorry, dude, that's not going to work, even in Delaware. And I think Miss Rochester there, Rochester Blunt, I think she's doing an Asian imitation. I'm not sure. Anyway, Ben Cardin is leaving the Senate at the ripe age of 87 in Maryland, so there will be an open race down there between Democrat Angela Alsobrooks and former sort of Republican Governor Larry Hogan. It's Maryland, so Alsobrooks will probably prevail, but Hogan at least threw some Democratic money into the state for her, which they would have preferred to spend elsewhere. And this is kind of funny, because Hogan and Trump are not exactly friends. Regardless, Trump endorsed him, thus giving him the kiss of death in Maryland. He may get a gig on MSNBC, we'll see. In neighboring Virginia, Democrat Tim Kaine faces Republican Hung Cao, who will likely lose to Kaine, but he was actually a good candidate down there. In one debate, he dinged Kaine several times. He asked Kitty Cat, I'm voting for Trump. There may be a role for him in the future after he loses this race, so Tim Kaine's going to win. All right, Joe Manchin, the Democrat, called me independent incumbent from West Virginia, is retiring after getting stabbed in the back by Chuck Schumer on some legislation. This is very red, West Virginia here. Instead, it will be Governor Jim Justice, who won as a Democrat and switched parties, against Wheeling Mayor Glenn Elliott. So the GOP will pick up this seat. It may have been more interesting if Manchin ran as an independent. Moving all the way down to Florida, Republican incumbent Rick Scott faces Democrat Debbie McCarcel-Powell. Under other circumstances, Powell might have had a chance, but Scott will ride Trump's coattails back into the Senate from Florida. By the way, Scott's kind of scary looking here. Kind of alien. Might want to hook up with Mark Kelly. In Mississippi, the GOP incumbent Roger Wicker, the white guy here, goes up against Democrat Ty Pinkett. Wait a cotton picking minute. A black guy running for the Senate in Mississippi? I'm not being racist or anything, because Pinkett's literally once picked cotton to help his family survive. He has a decent resume, and it's a nice story, you know. But it's 2024, and it's Mississippi. I think Wicker has this fourth term in the bag here. Marsha Blackburn, the Republican incumbent from Tennessee, will easily defeat her fat slob opponent, Gloria Johnson, shown on the right there. Johnson, who joined other state legislatures for protesting gun violence on the floor of their House or Senate or whatever. The other two were expelled, by the way, and she survived expulsion by a single vote. She may get some publicity and fewer votes. In Indiana, Mike Braun will be the next governor of the state, so it's Jim Banks on the left against, yeeks, what the fuck is that? Cheryl McRae. She'll win some votes in Cleveland and Gary, Indiana, but she can go back to being a psychologist. That's if she loses. Yep, Republicans going to win that one. All right, this one's an interesting one. In Ohio, where Democratic incumbent and fake moderate when he wants to be, which is usually around election time, will take on Bernie Moreno for the GOP. Now, Moreno's parents are legal immigrants from Colombia, and he made good for himself, which seems to piss off some Democrats. Ohio will go for Trump, and he may just pull Moreno over the finish line. I mean, recent polling is razor thin here of late, with a surge in Moreno's favor. He looks younger, too. Personally, I think it may be close, but Brown may pull this out, but really keep a close eye on this race. It'll be an important one. Up in Michigan, Democratic incumbent Debbie Stabenow is retiring, so it's an open race between Alyssa Slotkin on the left and Mike Rogers for the Republicans. On paper, it looked like a decent race. It looked like Rogers had a chance. He's fairly popular up there where he was in his district, as was Slotkin. Barely won in hers, but if polling is any indication, that cow on the left will win. Over in Wisconsin, the incredibly ugly Democratic incumbent Tammy Baldwin, who happens to be a lesbian, faces Republican Eric Hogue. Democrats weren't expecting this, and quite frankly, lesbianism hasn't been an issue in the race, but Hogue is charging forward at the right time. Regardless, whether he wins or loses, the race has thrown a real scare into the Democrats given the polling. In October, Hogue trailed Baldwin within the margin of error. I think she's going to win, razor thin. In Missouri, Republican pit bull incumbent Josh Hawley takes on Democrat Lucas Kunz, and be careful pronouncing that name, who at a gun shooting photo managed to pull a Dick Cheney and ricochet a piece of metal off a metal target and struck a reporter. At least it wasn't a bullet to the face. Anyway, 6 more years of Josh Hawley. Deep in the heart of Texas, Ted Cruz takes on Colin Allred, shown here on the right, wearing whiteface. Allred portrays himself as a moderate, but he's not really, come on, dude. Polling showed a close race, but after a debate where Cruz absolutely crushed Allred, Cruz should win, but it won't be a Cruz. Moving a tad north to Nebraska, they have both Senate seats up for election this year, and both feature an incumbent Republican. Let's start with the easy one, where Pete Rickus, the former governor appointed to the Senate when Ben Sasse shuffled on off to Florida, will go up against Preston Love, the black dude on the right, who will easily lose. The tougher one features Republican incumbent Deb Fischer against independent Dan Osborne. Democrats didn't even put up an opponent here. Honestly, this one is too close to call, and we're talking about Nebraska here. If Fisher loses, Osborne will become a de facto Democrat and caucus with them most likely because, he was with a union and all, and Republicans can't be in unions or something. Honestly, I can't predict whether she'll win or not. It's too close to call. Good Lord, look at that face on the right there. That's Katrina Christensen, the Democrat running against Kevin Cramer in North Dakota. I mean, her face looks like it got stuck in a snowbank for a season. Make the Senate less ugly and re-elect Cramer, which is what's going to happen. All right. Well, John Tester's days in Montana may be coming to an end out there. The Democratic incumbent will, with the unusually large fucking head, will most likely lose to Republican challenger Tim Sheehy, shown there on the right. It may be close, but the average cranium size of the Senate will go down without Tester there to inflate the figure. In Wyoming, come on, it's frickin' Wyoming. Republican John Barrasso will crush Democrat Scott Morrow, who looks like a Wyoming wolf caught in the headlights of a snowmobile there. By the way, that's not the same Scott Morrow who used to play professional hockey. Praise the Lord, this jerk, Mitt Romney, a fake Republican, is retiring out of Utah, leaving an open race. That will feature Republican John Curtis against Carolyn Glick for the Democrats. Glick is a mountain climbing environmentalist, social media influencer thingy, and she's just doing this for publicity, okay? This is an interesting one. The Democratic incumbent, Martin Heinrich, will oppose Nella Domenici for the Republicans in New Mexico. Now, Domenici, if that name sounds familiar, it should, because you may remember her father is former Senator Pete Domenici. You may also remember that he had an affair with another senator's daughter and got her pregnant. This is the daughter produced out of that affair. And regardless, Heinrich is going to win. And actually, that's Nella Half Domenici. All right, she's a Democrat who became an independent, and she's liberal. I mean, every liberal policy I hate, she likes. But for some reason, I like Kirsten Sinema of Arizona. Unfortunately, she's not running this year, which would have created a really interesting dynamic in a three-way race that would have included her and Democrat Ruben Gallego and Republican Carrie Lake in Arizona. So you have a super progressive against super MAGA out there. Polling's not close, folks. The progressive's going to win. Sorry, wrong choice in Lake. Should have gone with Lamb. All right. Into that. Okay, I know. I shouldn't do this, but Democrat Jackie Rosen will take on Republican challenger Sam Brown. Now, we shouldn't base our decisions on looks, but you know damn well. And that's all I'm going to say. Rosen, you win. Up in Washington, Democratic incumbent Maria Cantwell faces Republican Raul Garcia. And yes, he is a doctor. He was born in Cuba, by the way. He will also lose because this is Washington State we're talking about here, so... Sad news out of California is that pencil neck Adam Schiff will be your next senator from the Golden State, assuming the seat formerly held by the still deceased Dianne Feinstein. Steve Garvey, yes, the former Dodgers All-Star, is the Republican sacrificial lamb. Thanks for taking one for the team, dude. And even sadder, and finally, that batshit crazy Mazie Hirono of Hawaii will win another term for the Democrats out in literally blue Hawaii over some random dude named Bob McDermott who doesn't even have an Hawaiian-sounding name. And that's it. The GOP should pick up at a minimum, 2 seats. Montana and West Virginia. West Virginia, definitely. Probably Montana. Possibly Ohio. It may be a close one in Wisconsin. We'll see. And Pennsylvania. We'll see. Anyway, it's the day before Election Day. If you haven't done it already, you need to get out and vote. So do it. Vote for Trump. Cats are depending on it, and I'm not showing any more cat pictures. That's it. Bye. Well, maybe one tomorrow. That's it. Have a great day. More pleasant tomorrow.